Hello, my name is Mila Atmos, and I'm the host of Future Hindsight, a weekly podcast that takes the big ideas about civic life and democracy and turns them into action items for you and me. Each episode, I'm joined by a brand new guest, often activists, elected officials, authors, and more. Today, I'm going to cover some of the best ways you can prepare for having a guest on your show. By the end of this video, you'll come away with several concrete steps that you can take to ensure a smooth and well-researched conversation on your podcast. So, you've made it this far. You have your equipment, you've launched your podcast to the world, and now you're ready to book a guest for an episode. But where should you start? First, be sure to set aside some real time for your research. You're only as prepared as you allow yourself to be. Find out what kind of conversation you want to have and share with your listeners. And have a look on social media to see who might be a good fit. Twitter is a great space for finding experts and other people passionate about certain topics. Some of them might even have their direct messages open. So make a list and start brainstorming ways you can reach them. Maybe it's a direct message or just a tag on a post. Okay, so now you have a list of guests. Let's say you have one in particular you're really excited about. If you're planning on reaching out to them, do a quick search online and see if you can find any clips of this person speaking. This is important for a few reasons. Say you have a guest in mind who's done a lot of visual media, whether they've been on TV or YouTube or anything in between. They could be more of a visual speaker, using their hands and gestures to convey points in ways that don't necessarily translate into audio-only interviews. That being said, the more media training, the better. Find as many clips as you can and listen how this potential guest conveys their points. This is a skill that varies from person to person, and it's essential to know where your guest is starting from before scheduling them for a recording. Now, let's hope the pitching process is going well and you've gotten some replies. Once you've booked your guest, you have to make a decision about what you'd like to talk about, and more importantly, how you'd like the conversation to go. Are you asking questions? Is it an open discussion? What are you looking to achieve with this episode? It's important to keep in mind that every guest is different. Find out what is unique about your guest and point yourself in that direction. Are they an author? Grab a copy of their book if you can. Do they have a podcast? Listen to an episode or two. Familiarize yourself with your guest's content and expertise. It will help add so much value to your conversation if you can meet a guest where they are. As you start to build out a list of guests for your podcast, take notice of the voices you're representing. It's incredibly important to make sure someone's work fits the mission of your show, but it's equally important to have a diverse array of guests. It helps paint a larger picture of what that mission really is and who it applies to. Amplifying different perspectives, motives, and backgrounds can only enhance the quality of your podcast. Speaking of quality, let's talk about the technical side. In a world where connecting remotely is increasingly the norm, it's vital that you take the necessary steps to ensure a clean-sounding recording from your guest. That starts with figuring out what you need to do to create the best environment for your guest. Let's assume you have your setup established and ready, so we can turn our focus on the other party's recording situation. On Future Hindsight, we like to schedule a brief call a week or so before the recording date to go through all the important details. If your guest has a microphone of their own, great. If not, smartphones have a lot of great opportunities for capturing good quality audio. You can also use platforms like Squadcast or Riverside for an all-in-one remote podcasting experience. All in all, figure out what your guest has at their disposal and work from there. Sometimes, if the situation calls for it, you might even be able to meet a guest in person. If it's in the budget, meeting at a sound studio is always a great option. All this being said, the most important thing is a quality conversation. If the content is there, the listener will be too. I hope I've been able to clear some of the fog that stands between you and the perfect guest on your podcast. So here is a quick recap. Number 1, narrow down what you would like to talk about and make a list of people that can add to that conversation. Number 2, once you have narrowed down a guest, watch online clips or listen to other podcast interviews that they've been featured in. Number 3, find their respective work, whether that's a book, an article, or another podcast. find that media and familiarize yourself with it. This will also ensure that the potential guest's work fits the mission of your podcast. Number 4, keep it diverse. Always make sure you feature different perspectives and motives. Number 5, don't forget the technical aspect. Make sure your guest is prepared for a recording and will sound good over audio. And figure out what you need to do to create the best environment for them, whether that's remote or not. And number 6, when the day comes, trust your research and relax. You're ready. Thanks so much for checking out this quick lesson. I hope this has been helpful for you. Once again, my name is Mila Atmos. My podcast is Future Hindsight, and I hope you check it out.